Get ready, cause it's about time for you to speak your mind. Secret Girls Club. Secret Girls Club. Super Secret Girls Club.
Hello everyone. Welcome to Super Secret Girls Club at the Normies channel.
Welcome.
We have special guests today.
We do.
You can see with us we have Jenny and Polina.
Yes.
They are visiting us with their project, which is the Pattern magazine. It's a local Indianapolis or Indiana, I should say, magazine focused on all kinds of self-expressive art. We'll talk about it much more in details later. But first, I would like you guys to introduce yourselves.
Sure.
You first.
Well, I'm Polina, and I am the editor-in-chief and the executive director of Pattern. And, yeah.
Everything. I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. Love it.
That's the all of it. And I'm Jenny, and I've been with Pattern for 2 years. I'm our director of operations. So
Awesome.
more emails and meetings than anything else. But
Oh, yeah.
So, hey, that's important. That's
is.
how the world goes around.
I know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Jenny's the right hand and the left hand man, woman.
Love it. I love it.
Nice.
We've all been there, so
Yeah.
we know the importance of that.
Yeah. I feel like in our, like at the Normies, which also is a creative outlet, me and Navi are the more like, put this on the calendar, right? This in this message or in this email. Like,
Yeah. If you don't do it, nothing gets done.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Because I love the creative outlet, but they run on their own brain. It's like, all right, let's manage this brain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you need the two sides.
Exactly.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah.
You need all of them. But yeah.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, Pattern Magazine is dedicated to creating a vibrant and diverse community of creatives in Central Indiana. Is there any other regions that you guys?
Looking at expanding
Yeah.
or
I mean, we just want to take over the entire world, really, but
makes sense. Yeah.
gotta
Absolutely.
start somewhere.
Makes total sense.
Well, so with the magazine is just the tip of the iceberg, and we finishing up our 23rd issue. We do 2 a year.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's
Yeah.
11th year of doing this.
Wow.
And throughout the years, we have gone to different cities.
Yeah.
New York, Detroit, LA, and have done stories there with the creatives there. So we definitely have aspirations for getting out of Indiana, if for the purposes of letting people know that there's cool stuff happening here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of cool stuff happening in Indianapolis that people usually don't, they just don't realize until you start telling them, and they've been living here forever. You're like, do you know, like, every first Friday, like, studios are open, or every second Friday, it's a bike party. Like, there's just something happening every time in Indianapolis, and, like, it's hard to communicate that out there.
It really is. We're not really sure why.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on why more people don't appreciate Indianapolis?
I don't know. I think that there's a lot of assumptions of that these things aren't here, and so people don't look for them.
Exactly.
It's like it stops
Yeah.
before you even try to find it.
Right.
Yeah,
So
that makes
then
sense.
Yeah,
beyond-
people just sort of settle into their, like, I guess, bubbles that don't have the expectation of having culture and arts and fashion and music and all those things.
That's true.
And they're just like, all right, well, I guess I got my life and I'm fine. And it's like, but there's so much more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have the routine, like the same restaurant or same coffee
Yeah,
shop. It's like,
exactly.
oh, this is it. It's like, no,
Yeah.
there's something happening.
Yeah. Well, so the magazine and some of the programs that we have are designed to open the door to this whole other life.
Gotcha.
Now, you still have to find us, which is no small feat in itself. There's people who, when they find out we've been around for 13 years, they're like, how have I never heard of you guys?
Yeah.
But once you find us, we're like a gateway into a whole other universe.
Yeah.
There's several gateways in Indy for that, but we're one of them.
No.
We do it in this is one of the ways that we do it.
I love it. It looks beautiful. And you also have a digital newsletter as well, correct? That
We have a website with like digital content and we have a newsletter.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so we should talk about the programs that we have. So we have an internship and a fellowship program, which is an opportunity for talent incubation for people to work sometimes on the print publication, always on the digital publication, and it's an opportunity for them to sort of try out interviewing, writing the pieces, following that, getting the visuals that go along with that whole like package piece of it. So a lot of times a single person will do the entire thing. We'll take the photos, we'll do the interview, write the story, plug it into WordPress, set it live. So they get like a really good picture on how this works. So we have that internship program, we have classes come through spring, summer, fall, and then the fellowship program is a year-long opportunity. Both of them are part-time. But we have those going on, and a lot of the work that we do creates opportunities for those people to learn skills, to build their portfolios, things like that. So that we have those two programs, and then we also have our think tank program, which is a recurring, or more like educational thing that we do. Will either be a fireside chat or a panel conversation. Typically, I think every once in a while we'll just have a person speak.
How often does that happen?
Monthly.
We
try.
Sounds like a lot of hard goals.
That's a lot. Yeah, you guys are doing a lot.
That's a lot happening there.
Our next one is coming up this upcoming Tuesday, and we're having Peter Dunn with Pete the Planner. He's going to be one of the speakers. And the idea of that is, for a lot of creatives, figuring out your financial life is a challenge because a lot of the content that exists, doesn't really apply to you.
Absolutely.
And we particularly like Pete's approach, which is a much more like humane and actual, like, let me meet you where you're at,
and also humorous.
So he's if you're gonna talk money, he's a good person to talk.
I've heard of Pete. And I actually was looking through your website. I signed up on a newsletter. I found you a couple of years ago through the person that I was seeing at that time. So I know Pete, and I love when he came up as like there's a workshop happening around financials, and I think the financial literacy is just so important nowadays, especially around creativity, because that's been something that we have not struggled, but it's been 8 years because we kind of figured it out. But YouTube is just such a new industry that's like, how do you manage it financially? What does that look like? And a lot of people just assume that if you're on a YouTube, we're just making buku bucks. It's like, that's not how it works. YouTube, like, barely, like, the AdSense doesn't cover everything, and then depending on content, it gets dinged. So I was just looking up at him and just seeing like what tips he was providing. So I know that it's in April, I believe, the workshop that's happening.
He probably has. I'm sure that he does workshops separate from this. The event that we're hosting is Tuesday, which is the 28th. But I'm sure that he does other stuff.
Gotcha.
But you're right. So like, especially if you're doing any sort of like self-employed entrepreneurial endeavor, like there's not like a great script for that. And then you like, I don't know, what are you setting aside for healthcare? What are you setting aside for retirement? Like blah, 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 blah. Like if you have a really traditional employer, a lot of
the way you laughed at that, like, retirement. What do you mean?
You're like, I'm going to work until I die. Which, maybe is what we do. But
probably.
Those things that like are often covered by a traditional employer, they think about that for you as an incentive to like suck you into the thing that they've got going on. You have to figure it out for yourself. And, like, I didn't personally receive a great education on how to do those things. And
just barely any education around it at all.
Yeah, Navi, you have a BA, right?
I have an MBA, so I know financial from that perspective, but that's like, master after everything is done. So like, I don't think like high school, you just know algebra and calculus. Like, how do you use that in a regular day life? Like, there's no financial literacy, even in college, unless you specifically, but I didn't know there were classes around it at IU. So I just happened to go in a career that taught me some of it, but like, that should be in high school. Like, financial literacy should be in high school.
Yeah.
Sounds like they're in the middle of
trying to make it happen.
Introduce something right now at IBS schools that is financial literacy related.
Good.
Yeah.
Financial literacy is like so long overdue that now we also need something like media literacy as well. Just because of so many new, emerging platforms and like
scams.
they can
that's
be
coming.
used and
Yeah.
abused, and it's just like it's so important for people to know how to like navigate like online space.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
as online creators, we've been around for a while and we've seen some things.
Oh, well, sure.
Yeah.
Well, wait a second. Do you guys do any kind of workshops and classes?
We don't. We have planned about doing it, but that's been one of those things like we will start quarterly and then we will do, and it just haven't happened.
Well, we had like internal, like workshops where we
like
would
lunch
just
and
like
learn kind of
Okay.
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
like, we would like teach each other like what we know, what we've learned.
Mhm.
Our editor team has an annual
Editor
workshop,
summit.
editor summit,
Yeah.
where they kind of like again like share their what they've learned that year and how they've mastered a certain thing. So
That's
they
awesome.
although they're all editors, they try to kind of like diversify in specific areas. One of our editors is super into animation, and so we had this animation project that we just run with this.
Yeah.
This is yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, another editor is just like really focused on audio, so he knows all the tips and tricks and how to like edit audio, how to make it sound the best way possible, even if this microphone is not the best out of the 4, he's gonna make it sound equally as good as the rest.
Yeah. But our goal is to do some workshop because us being in YouTube and YouTube is expanding and a lot like there are no classes around YouTube. And there were a recent poll that we read that a lot of majority of high schoolers, when you ask them what they want to do, they want to go to YouTube industry. It's like,
Yep.
how are you learning this? Like besides like looking at people YouTube, because it looks all rosy, but that's not how it is. Like an hour of content that you're putting out that includes like 8-hour content that's in the back. Are you prepared for it? Like, do you know what that is? So that is our goal, to do it. Now that we have our own studio, we moved in here last year. So now that we have a space that we can invite people to do, that is going to be something that we work on. But we just finally, I believe, now just settling down. Now our rooms are dedicated to specific things that could be a potential that we look into.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, but we haven't really, it's been talk. It's been a concept in the
Well,
air.
we might just like bug you guys about it.
We
because,
should, you should bug us.
Yeah, we will
That's
bug you.
like how it
Well,
works.
it's the same for us.
Please
We are focused on writing and photography, to some extent videography, and then also like wardrobe styling.
Yeah.
We've done some events around sneaker design, and it's like these passion careers. There's really no way for high school kids. They don't even know that this is a career choice for them.
Yeah.
And as you said, they understand that YouTube is a career choice, but like, there's not a class. How do you
what does
break
it
into
take?
that? Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we would love to work with you on that.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
sold.
We-
Okay.
I think this is the push we needed. Like we needed the external, like,
Yeah.
hey,
Somebody would be like,
Are you
"This
coming?"
is a great idea. You guys should be doing this."
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
right.
This podcast has been something similar to it. Like we do discuss how we started as a small business. What does it take?
Yeah.
How much team, like how many people it takes to run the team.
Yeah.
Because it's completely new. So this was the whole reason why we started this podcast, and we do those mini series
Yeah.
here and there whenever we don't have guests or we don't
Yeah.
have a specific show that we need to talk about.
Yeah, I would say about once a month we try to kind of like open and be transparent about, these are the challenges or these are some of tips and tricks we've learned, how we handle certain things. So I hope that our viewers found it beneficial.
I hope so.
A lot of people that tune in are like actually maybe like a very micro influencers that are trying to like
Grow.
break into the
Sure.
fold. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, the folks listening should like indicate that this is helpful to them and they want to see more.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
you guys should
Usually
speak up.
You usually have a good
Speak
conversation.
now or forever hold your peace.
Exactly. Yeah. We usually have a good conversation
yeah.
whenever we those have mini-series, for sure.
So you mentioned fellowships and residencies that you offer to creators. I did also read about your in your website about Stitchworks.
Yes.
So I wanted to learn more about that.
Oh, Stitchworks. Okay, so I guess a little background would be helpful. You guys, as a lot of people might think of Pattern as a fashion-centric organization, and that's what it started as.
Gotcha.
a group of fashion designers got together 13 years ago, and they were like, we need to do something to grow the industry. Like, there's major gaps in the industries that prevent our businesses from growing.
Yeah.
So how do we do that? And one of the big things that's missing from the ecosystem here is a cut and sew shop, which is basically a place where you would take your pattern and your fabric, and you'd be like, here, make me 10 of these.
Yeah.
Because as a designer, if you're starting to sell to boutiques, there's quantities. And so if you're a one-man shop, all of a sudden you're like, wait, when am I going to have time to make these 20 things? Or 30 things? Problem being that if you wanted quantities, but small quantities, you can't do that overseas. Like, if you go overseas, they want you to order at least 1,000 of whatever.
Makes total
which
sense.
is outside of the budget of most independent designers.
Makes sense.
So this thing was missing, and that was kind of what we started with. And there was a lot of, for the first year, running around and sort of, picture a bunch of people running around like bumping into walls and each other. not a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then it evolved, and it evolved because I found that there really wasn't an appetite for supporting the fashion industry here from the folks that had the means to do so.
Interesting.
And just the people with the means just couldn't envision how a fashion industry could exist in Indiana. Like, it just seemed really unrealistic. So why spend money on it? And so as a result, what happened is we evolved to sort of get everybody under one umbrella.
Gotcha.
So, art and photography and music and design, broadly speaking, all those things. Lots of things. And so this idea of like a cut and sew shop went away.
Yeah.
And then the year before the pandemic, on a lark, we applied for a grant to the Ellen Whitehill Clues Charitable Foundation for a project. And we were like, why don't we just like ask for, do you remember what it was? Was it 20 or 30,000? I think it was like 30,000 bucks.
Some fun,
To do a pilot.
Yeah.
No way we're gonna get this. No way.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Like, how? Of course we got it.
Of course.
At which point I was like,
You wouldn't.
we're not even doing fashion anymore. What have I done?
Hey, it was a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it launched officially the second week of March of 2020.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Yay. High five.
Best time. Yeah, it was great. It was great. So then we shut it down the following week.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And then we reopened the first week of April because Eskenazi Health, a big hospital downtown, contracted us to make like thousands and thousands of isolation gowns for them, because what had happened is they couldn't get the stuff from China anymore.
Makes sense.
So yeah, that was quite the adventure. We ended up activating over 100 at-home sewers.
Yeah.
And everybody from just like hobbyists to actual fashion designers, everybody was sitting at home like trying to figure out what the hell was going on.
Yeah. No,
Right.
for
So
sure.
this at least kept a few people busy, and they
Yeah.
felt like they were contributing to the effort.
Yeah.
And since then, we have been taking clients and helping them make things, but
Okay.
also building out a educational program
Got it.
for high school students. As people want to get into fashion, they don't know how to. There's a lot of kids that can't afford to go to college, and we're like, you don't actually need to go to college to learn how to sew and make patterns and drape.
Yeah.
Like, if you have a skillful instructor that can show you how to do this, like,
Yeah.
you can learn how to do
Right.
that.
You have to spend thousands of money to learn.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's kind of what we do over there at Stitchworks.
I love it.
It's a
That's awesome.
separate spot with sewing machines and
Oh, that's good.
I love
fabric
that.
and things.
Is there a project that comes to memory from the whole Stitchworks, since 2020? Is there something that you were just like really proud of, a student that made something amazing, or?
Well, the making of the gowns is probably the highlight, because like, I know nothing about sewing, to
Yeah.
be clear.
Yeah.
And so it was myself and Denisha Ferguson, who is the executive director of the Indiana Fashion Foundation. Her and I essentially like figured out how to do this thing.
Yeah. Nice.
and sort of cobbled it together, and it was by far the year that I spent the least amount of time at home. Like, everybody was sheltered in place, and
Yeah.
I was just running around,
Everywhere.
and she was as well, trying to figure out how to make these gowns, where to get them,
Yeah.
fabric cut out,
Yeah.
delivering them to the hospital, meeting with people who were sewing them. I mean, it was crazy.
Everything.
The fact that we survived, I
Yeah.
think, is like the most memorable.
Oh, absolutely.
I
Yeah.
believe that.
Yeah, 2020 was crazy.
It's been hard. We had to film a lot of our content also remotely, so we had to get cameras into everyone's household,
Oh wow.
film things separately, but also on the call. And then we had our editor work with like 7 layers of video.
Yeah, so it was crazy.
It was very tough.
We call it Frankenstein edits.
Yeah.
So they're like all in the snippet, with different things
Yeah.
happening. It's like, okay, but we are connected somehow.
Yeah.
But I feel like things like that were probably so meaningful for your audience to be like, even though it was a little different, it was
Yeah.
still like the way that they were interacting with you didn't change.
Yeah.
So that opportunity to have like the same experience that you had 2 months ago because you're watching it on a laptop
Yeah.
in the room that you always watch it in, and like maybe
Yeah.
you guys are like the format is a tiny bit different, but the experience is largely the same. I feel like those little bits where you got to like have your life the way that you had it
Yeah.
before were so valuable.
Absolutely.
Really-
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we love our community because even though they understood, like obviously we dialed back on how much we were doing because the amount of time it was taking. But you're right, like they were still able to have the interaction and knowing like, okay, we are staying at home. We're trying to like making sure we abide by everything. We're not like just all going into the studio. We're
Right.
staying, but we still continue to make this and find a different way to do it. You just have to come up with the new ways to continue living.
always pivoting.
Absolutely, always pivoting, adapting, and like, all right, this is what's happening. Cool, that's fine. What can we do differently?
Yeah,
Let's do it.
necessity is the mother of all invention, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So like, we would have never thought that's how we'll do it, but now we know if we ever have to.
Yeah.
Or if we have to film with them when they check, like now we know how to do that.
Right.
Like, all right,
Right.
we'll just clip it together.
Yeah,
But
it was
yeah.
like a soft launch for our move.
Like, it is possible. Okay.
It worked out.
Yeah, it worked out. No, for sure.
So I would like to talk a little bit about what we have on the table.
Sure.
I was wondering what inspires you to decide on the theme. So I don't know if I can spoil this issue's.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So this
Yeah.
issue is the food issue.
Yes.
Why food?
Well, there were a couple of things that went into that thought process. One is we have been very intentional about shedding the fashion magazine image, because if you read fashion magazines regularly, when you pick this up, you know automatically that it's not. But for a lot of people here in Indiana that don't necessarily
Yeah.
spend a lot of time in fashion, they think this is the fashion magazine.
Got it.
And then for us as an organization, it doesn't serve our purpose, because fashion is seen as something that is a luxury.
Yeah.
Um,
That's true.
So people are less likely to want to support it with their dollars, and they don't dig any deeper to see what else is happening.
Fair enough.
And what's happening is we're trying to help emerging creatives launch into their careers,
Yeah.
and just kind of change the face of Indianapolis a little bit
Mm-hmm.
to become recognized for the creative talent that we do have here. So
Yeah.
I think if people knew that, they would get a lot more excited about supporting us.
That makes
When
total
they
sense.
stop at the magazine, they just think, oh, this is all there is.
It's a fashion magazine with a bunch of models and
Exactly.
all that. Like,
that's
why should
that's
we look
cute,
into it?
but like
Yeah.
whatever.
Absolutely.
Right?
Makes sense.
So food is like us being really like upfront about it, like, no, not fashion. I mean, we do it in a very sexy, stylish way,
Yeah.
to be clear, intentionally.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's not about selling fashion to anybody.
Makes
It's
sense.
about telling the story of the creative Indianapolis.
Got it.
So,
And there's a lot of creativity that comes into food.
100%.
Yeah.
And we have some great chefs, and our culinary scene, as you guys probably know, has been growing and improving, and there's so many more options and variety, which
Yes.
is very
We love
exciting.
that.
Yes, I mean, I love to eat, so
Same.
Yes, absolutely.
and I think we gained a few pounds in like putting this together,
It's
because we
true.
did shoots like with lots of food, which we will then consume.
Yeah. So some of the stories or features in this are highlighting local chefs, local restaurants, but a lot of it is also like the cover is an ice cream scoop of caviar, right? So like there are photos just of just food that is not from here. There are illustrations of edible plants that you could find around Indiana. We did I think it was they called it the Great Fry Off, and we were just like taste testing like fast food French fries.
Oh,
you know,
I
so
love
like,
it.
so not all
Speaking
like
our language.
not all of it is like super highbrow. Some of it is, some of it's not. So it's this like nice mix of the way that like as humans we interact with food.
Yeah.
Jennifer Rubenstein, who is the editor for Edible Indie, did the op-ed at the end. You know, like, so we're not doing that.
Yeah.
You know, like we're not replicating that magazine. Indianapolis Monthly does like a great restaurant reviews. Things like that. Like that.
Yeah.
That's not what this issue is. This issue is like 1,000 different ways to think about food.
Okay.
Which is fun for us.
In a pretty way.
Yes. No, I love it. I was going to ask how similar this was going to be with Edible Indie.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you made that distinction. There is a lot of creativity with food. I watch a lot of food shows, so when they do something creative, I was like, oh, I love this. Can I replicate it? No, but I love watching it. But no, that's beautiful. So did you work with a lot of individual creators in indie who trying to create a different kind of food, how the way they think about those, or is it more so this is what everybody else is doing around the nation, or is it
This one's focused on local talent.
gotcha?
And we, you know, there's kind of, I don't know that we have a system for how we pick folks. We kind of look around and we try to mix in people who are well known and respected with some up and comers.
Got it.
That's, I guess it is our formula. Our formula, we do like to put side by side people who are emerging and people who are established, because it's just a good way to bring up more people, right?
Yeah.
So that is a lot of our focus. Some of it is just practical. Again, like we are, in a lot of ways, a very small team, and so stories that are more accessible, that we can get to the person quicker or photograph them quicker, sometimes get also, you know, elevated, other than like somebody who's really hard to get a hold of.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I think it's also, I mean, indie has a very vast food, like, options. I'm from Czech Republic, and it's a very homogeneous country. There's not a lot of diversity, and that shows in the food as well. And I feel like a lot of people don't know that in Indianapolis you can actually get a really good Mexican food, you know, and you can get really good, like, different ethnicities cuisine, and in a very authentic way. Have you featured also, like, specifically like ethnic food in the magazine?
Yeah, you did a story that the takeout.
That's not like specifically ethnic.
I mixed it up.
We didn't. I don't think that we did any section that was focusing on ethnic, but ethnic restaurants and chefs are part of it. Like
Gotcha.
Pen from Bodie she's one of. There's a section called Ask. There's a section called Ask the Chef, and what we did is there are portraits of, I think, 7 chefs that we took at Newfields, and then we did the same set of questions with each of them. The idea being the questions have nothing to do with food. We're going to talk to you about anything.
That's awesome.
And so,
I love that.
so Pen was part of that.
We try to not to be super literal.
Yeah.
We like to mix things up that
makes
don't go together.
sense.
Then we're not trying to compete with other publications in the market at all.
Makes sense.
So,
But the takeout shoot you were referring to, we went to 5 different locations that are exclusively takeout, with the idea of kind of being like, in our time of DoorDash, maybe it's cool to go get your own food. Yeah. You know, and then like
sense.
maybe what adventure happens when you're gonna figure out eating it somewhere that isn't at home on your couch.
Yeah.
So just that like slightly different experience of food when, like, as we were talking about the pandemic, for like this period of time, food was only delivered and you ate it at home.
Yeah.
You know, the opportunities of eating it somewhere else. And like one of the spots was Che Chori, which is an Argentinian restaurant out on 16th Street.
yeah,
Nice.
it's really good.
Yes. And then Chef Oyo's The Trap is not.
Yeah, I guess it's not ethnic per se.
No, that's like a
We'll
southern.
just have to do another issue with more ethnic food.
There you go.
That's all.
But in general, like Argentinian restaurant, I would say like it's more than just Midwest American.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
definitely a different. It just brings a different taste buds. Like, okay, yeah, let's go try out something that's other than French fries. Don't get me wrong, I love French fries. I can eat that all day long.
Yeah.
And put anything on it, like, yes.
Couldn't
Yes.
be all.
Yes. It's a problem. I feel like we talk about French fries in almost every podcast. Somehow it comes to it. It's like potatoes.
Funny.
We'll
Love
eat it.
potatoes.
Like anything in any
Love a
form.
potato.
So good. So good. I'm hungry.
Yes, so am I. We need to like not talk about food anymore.
Well, wrong segment, but that's oh no, I love it. That's good.
Well, what are your places? What's your favorite eatery, like in Indy? Like where would you where would you take a friend who came out from out of town?
I personally love going to Yats. Like it's quick and easy, but it's really good Cajun food. I know it's like it may not be the best authentic Cajun food, but if I'm really feeling like sick or anything, like that's my go-to food. And I live close to Monon, so I will walk my dog to it. It's like okay, and I can pick it up and back. Like it's a whole routine that I love doing like once a week. I shouldn't be eating it once a week. It's probably not good for me that much. But I love going to Yads, and I think even with everything with inflation, the gumbo is great. The spinach and mushroom etouffee, it's amazing. Yep. I always get extra bread. Yes. Too much bread. I don't have regrets for it at all. But yeah, it's really good.
So my friends from Czech Republic visited me last year.
Oh yeah.
And I was just like, where am I gonna take them? Like, there's so many options. I don't know what to do. And then I got sick the week that they were arriving, so I couldn't really like host them proper. And then they went to Arby's, and I was just like, what are you doing? Like, why did you? And they brought it, like, I never eat, I mean, I do eat fast food occasionally, but, like, very rarely. And they, like, came to, like, my house with Arby's.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, what's the smell?
Hey, at least it was not White Castle. It could have been bad.
It could have been White Castle, and it could have been bad.
It could have been worse.
But yeah, I after that, I'm trying to recall where I took them, but they like
my sister's wedding. It's like, here, eat all this food.
Yes, we went to her sister's wedding, like traditional Indian wedding, and there was so much good food.
Yeah.
And I also feel like they just like picked like the things that they recognized, like, you know, like chicken. Like, okay, this is chicken. But when there was like a fried pocket, like samosa, they didn't know what's in it. They just like left it alone. And I had to take them. It's like, there's potatoes in it. There's
You'll like it. You'll like
and you like it.
Spices. You cannot go wrong with puff pastry. Eat it. Yeah. Yeah, she goes everywhere here. I think your favorite one's Sahara. You go there way too often.
I do like Sahara.
Up in Broad Ripple, and we always get free kunefe. So it's like, all right, I think we come here way too often.
Yeah, I lived in Turkey for a year, so I have a weakness for Middle Eastern or Mediterranean cuisine.
Oh yes.
So
anything
I will never say no to that.
Yeah. I was gonna say probably one of my favorite spots is Bosphorus.
Oh yeah.
That's where I want to go for my birthday dinner.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. It's coming up. Yeah. It's coming up in a few weeks. I will make a note. We'll do that.
Okay, before we just end up talking about potatoes for the rest of the podcast.
It's a risk. It could happen.
Always a possibility.
I did want to talk a little bit about how you navigate this industry as a woman, especially in a leadership position. Are there any specific challenges that you had to overcome, and do you have any advice for other women that want to emerge in this industry?
Well, so I've been self-employed pretty much my entire adult life, and so part of that work included working with my husband and managing him. He's a motivational speaker. Gotcha. And so working for yourself, you don't really kind of notice the distinctions, right? Like, because you are answering to yourself, you are your own boss, and so I never really kind of contemplated my gender as a challenge.
Yeah.
Right.
And I will say that in the last 13 years of running this organization, there's been instances where I felt like being a female was a disadvantage, particularly when it comes to financial conversations.
Yeah.
I remember meeting with a potential funder multiple times, never got any money out of him, but he was like, why do you always like come by yourself? You need to like bring a board member, or like, I sort of read between the lines of like, you need like a man in the room to have this conversation.
Of course.
I mean, maybe it's because, I don't know. It could have something to do with the fact that I'm a woman. Could be that I'm just not a super financially like literate person in terms of how I express myself. But I think to me, it's more the challenges that I run into is just being an outsider, period.
Right.
Yeah.
Regardless. I mean, I perhaps am even more at a disadvantage, but like not being part of the establishment and also being an immigrant and having like a different way that I express myself.
Yeah.
Sometimes people don't know what to make of me. They're like, oh, interesting. What does she want? Like, I think people like wonder about my motivation. They don't understand my drive and my energy, and they think that like maybe
what you trying to get here.
Exactly. Like, am I jockeying for power and influence? Like, am I what? Like, I don't know. And I feel like, no, this is kind of what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Advice, I mean, just keep doing what you're doing, right? Like, you have to keep trucking.
Yeah.
And never give up, never quit. And what's the one? It's like a little saying. You have to be so good that you make them forget.
That's true.
You know?
Sense. Yeah.
So that's been kind of my approach. I try not to let it mess with my head.
Yeah.
I know what I want. I know what I'm doing. I know that what I'm doing is good and effective. And so if you can't get behind it because you don't see the value, that's kind of on you.
No, fair enough. Yeah, like not to overthink it too much. It's like this is the path that you're going. So the creators that you work with locally, do you often see that do you see any of like the gender gap there? Like if there's a more males or females who are younger who are trying to go up, and like how do you go around approaching it? Do you try to keep it balanced? Like, okay, we don't see that many male creators. There needs to be, because it's both ways, right? Like it's not like, I think specific industry like fashion could bring more females around, whereas like there are a lot of males who are fashion forward, or it could be other way around. I'm not into that much into it. So do you see those kind of challenges in there to trying to make sure getting as many young kids?
Well, I will say, based on like the people who apply for internships and fellowships is like 99% women.
Fair.
I don't know if they're attracted to the organization because it is basically an all-female
That could be a
cast, if you will, and they feel more comfortable.
True.
There's days where I'm like, we need some testosterone in the room.
We love you, Leo.
Makes sense.
We
Thanks,
do
Leo.
have. Thank you,
We
Leo.
do have.
Makes sense.
We have an occasional dude.
That's interesting. So, because as a consumer of YouTube videos, I often watch like other people, and I just realized that most of the creators that I watch are men.
Yeah, because that's
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I'm just like, I just realized this.
Yeah.
Like, as we're talking
how
right
is
now.
I think
How
it's
is
a
this
lot
happening?
it is a lot of men who are big star on YouTube.
Yeah.
Unless you're going on a Twitch, then it's the other way around. But even I don't go.
Are you sure about that?
I mean, it's only few. I guess it's only 2 females who are big on Twitch either. But then again, I don't go on Twitch that often. But on YouTube, I think it is mostly males that I follow as well.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, I do think it's interesting that, as you say, 99% of people interested in, entering some of your classes or apply for those internships are women. When the success that I see on the internet, and that's very small slice of the art industry, like creative industry, is men. I don't know what that tells you.
Well, so here's a question for you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, how many, like, statistically speaking, how many women how many YouTubers are actually female, proportionally speaking? And Would you say that this is a career path that like is easy to get into? Is there like specific skills or a certain mindset that you have to compete in this? I guess.
I guess it depends on what you're trying to do. Like in our specifically in a reaction world that we are, I think there's only 2 other channels who are females. Iman Snow and Abby.
And Abby. Well, there's more.
There's more,
Yeah.
but like I think when we talk about like the big like the main names that are more known,
The homies, they're all women.
oh, I had no idea. Okay. I was like, who?
The homies?
The homies.
Wait a second. Who started first? The normies or the homies?
Yeah,
What's
I was
happening
like,
here?
what? When you said homies, I was like, what? Guys?
I know. It was so funny when I first saw it. I was like, the homies.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
I'm not sure. It was more so like the knowledge that you need. I think it could be it because our industry is mostly, we're very nerdy, we're very dorkies, and I think a lot of guys tend to be in that sense. Like from ours, I think our guys are the nerdiest that we are.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that maybe also it's the fact that maybe this is probably just like the way I consume content and
True.
the topics that I like to focus on. Maybe it's just those are the fields where the more men are interested in pursuing. I don't really. I'm not trying to put people in boxes, but I think that I wouldn't watch like a makeup channel,
With a guy?
with anybody.
Oh, okay.
And
I was
think
like,
that-
what?
I think that-
What are we trying to say here?
I
Like,
think
I
that-
watch guys right on channel the best.
I think there are like more women creators on YouTube specifically that are like in the fields of like fashion, like reviewing different brands or
Okay.
like giving like fashion advice or styling. And I don't. I would not seek that out.
Yeah.
Like I will mostly look as a consumer. I will look for things like vlogging,
Fair enough.
and exploring different restaurant or culture or just some adventure. I'm more of a focus on adventure. So
it's based on content that you consume.
but women can have adventures.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course.
Do. Yeah.
I'm gonna now look for
Female creators.
female
There you
vloggers.
go. There you go.
And I don't know how much of who we attract to our programming, and that being a predominantly woman-based audience. How much of that is just the reality of being here in Indiana, where heteronormative preferences are for a lot of people that can still weigh. So there may be a lot of men who would be interested in participating in this, but have other older men in their lives who are don't
Very
touch
true.
that.
Very true.
Yeah, especially if we're known as a fashion magazine.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Right?
That's very true.
Yeah.
Why are you into that thing?
Yeah.
I feel like that's probably still a deep vein.
Yeah.
In our
Oh, for sure.
area.
In
I would
Midwest,
agree.
for sure. I think regardless, it is a huge struggle of just not only trying to make it okay what you want, also making
Right.
sure your support system is okay with it.
Right.
And then if they're not, then trying to find a support system that will be. I think that's getting better, but I can see at least our generation, I think, still struggles, whereas a younger generation might, they have a better way too, because they have easier, or people are more open than I think millennials still stuck. I was like, can we do this? Or should we do this?
Mhm.
Like, you can do this. You'll be fine.
Well, you guys are doing it.
Yeah.
Right? You're distinctly the minority.
I hope
But also,
this.
but by choice. This is what interests you. This
Yeah.
is why you got into it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's surprising. Our whole cast, I think, all on-screen personalities. You're an immigrant, but you're the only white person that we have. I think most of us are brown. But it took me a minute to tell my parents what I was doing. This was a part-time hustle for me for a while. I had a full-time job, and I think once we started making money, and then I was like, this whole YouTube exists.
I would have loved to have been there for that conversation.
Yeah. Oh, now my dad tells his relatives, like, oh yeah, they have a YouTube channel and they make this kind of money. I was like, you still don't know what we do. Like, you still don't understand it, but it was just a matter of, I think it was very careful for me to have that conversation until we started making a revenue.
Oh, for sure.
And I know Suraj, who is a CEO, he was the first one who left his job and became full-time 6-7 years ago. And I think his parents were pretty open about it, but I think he kind of still struggled, just like, not only with his parents, I think his parents were open, but essentially telling his friends that what is he doing?
Yeah, right.
It is not just like watching TV. Like, it's more than that.
There's some really funny memes out there about what people think you do as a YouTuber and what you actually do.
Yeah, it is funny because I think like most of our friends was like, oh yeah, so it's a job now. It's like, yes, it's a company. We employ full-timers.
And then their reaction is just like, how?
How? I remember like anytime I had to tell somebody, I have to go this extensive length of like, no, we're not just YouTube channel. We are full on company. We employ 13 people. Like, we have benefits and all that stuff. Extra detail that I may not have to give if I just told somebody I'm a management consultant. Like, okay, we're moving on. Like, cool, but like, no, I'm telling you, no, like, this is legit. Like, it's an actual thing.
I think that my parents still don't understand what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
They're all in Czech Republic, and every time I come to visit, or if I call them, they're just like, "What are you doing today?" I'm like, "I'm at work." And they're like, "Okay, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Working." I just don't want to have this conversation anymore, where they're just like, "Sa, you could be doing something better with your life." Like, I'm doing fine. Don't worry about me.
So going back to your pattern, do you know what's your gender of demographics who consume your magazine? Is it also mostly females?
It's 60-40. 60 female,
that's not bad. Yeah.
40 male. Yeah,
Okay.
so on the consumption side, I guess we have some dudes that appreciate good design.
Yeah. It's funny because I learned about pattern from a guy, actually. Yeah, so it's like, oh, okay. So it was surprising to me when I actually started reading. It was like, okay, I can see why more females are targeted to wear, but like, he's in a fashion. It's CP who was in fashion. Was like, okay, yeah, I can see why you told me about it because he's into fashion.
Yeah.
But it's something that everybody can consume. So, but it's also again in the Midwest, so it makes sense.
I also think like when we get into who's contributing to the magazine, that like the contribution side is also the if you were to do a gender split on that, there are more males who are participating in the creation of the magazine than again participating in our internship and fellowship program. So there may be something else just going on with that, and maybe there's something to maybe a lot of men receive, and this might be true in the YouTube space as well, like maybe a lot of men receive encouragement and feedback of like, just go do it, and that if women, and again like spectrum and all sorts of things, right, if there's a little bit more of a hesitancy and I need more experience, I need to really make sure I'm super good at this before I decide I can go like have a career in this space. For sure. So
for sure.
Well, I mean, this issue though, all the contributors, there's just one man.
that's not true.
The contributors?
Really?
Yeah.
He split his personality to do multiples.
On the page.
Oh, on the page.
On the page.
No, that's different. So what Paulina is talking about
The contributor
is there is like one spread where we will highlight contributors who are sort of new or like first time, or maybe they've done a few things for us but we haven't highlighted them before. So that spread will show 6 or so faces. Yeah. But then like if you actually look at the mass of like who all actually was part of it, and that's what I'm talking about. There will be more men on that list. Because I can think of at least like 3 photographers off the top of my head, but
I haven't looked at that through that lens. I think we try to be super diverse racially.
Makes sense.
And be super intentional about that.
Yeah.
Less along necessarily the gender lines.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I think that's where kind of a communication, or just in general, like sometimes not only looking at gender, like who's the best for this? Like, all right, you are getting this job. And then when you start looking at numbers, it's like, well, it is what it is. So it was like, who is applying for this and who's needed? We are very diverse, and also I think, internally, I think we have both male and female editors. It's like, who's the best? All right, go for it. Like, it doesn't matter who, where you came from, as long as we can, you
know what the hell you're doing.
Exactly, you know what you're doing, and we can provide you the opportunity for you to be the best that you want to be. In this industry.
But I mean, I think it's also, I mean, we're blessed that we can make the decisions ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, I've definitely encountered situations where I was dismissed based on, for just having like the same idea as somebody else, and somebody else got it.
This still happens here, though.
Yeah. I'm not gonna get into it anymore.
This still happens, yeah. So what was your previous issues beside the food in this one? That seems like mostly more on the other level, like other side of it, that you're trying to actually get away from the fashion.
The one on the other end was an art issue, and that one on the cover has a model that shoot is from one of the fashion editorials in the issue. But that one is largely focusing on like sort of traditional art that you would like see in an art museum sort of style art. Nice. Those artists.
Gotcha.
I think that was the larger focus on that particular issue. The next one in is a few issues back, but that one is a music issue.
Love it.
And I wasn't around for that one, like the creation of that one. So I don't know if you want to like say anything more specific.
We've done a couple of art and a couple of music issues, and sometimes we just go, off script and do something different.
Yeah.
The themes are a lot of times decided very close to when we're supposed to start working on the damn thing, because we're trying to be like relevant.
Topical.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
And sometimes there's obviously things going on, like for example, the pandemic or.
The world,
the summer of 2020, some of those things. So we try to be.
I did notice the 2020 issues, they were kind of more focused on like I don't want to say like revolution or like a reform, that type of
makes sense
thing. Was that something that you just kind of like had to pivot as you saw what was happening in the world?
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to tell the story of what we saw happening in our own community, in terms of. The riots or the protests that followed George Floyd's murder, and so it just felt like, particularly in our community, there was a lot of room for change.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
And we saw some of those things happening, and we wanted to document them, but also talk about like how much more work there was left to be done.
Makes sense
as well.
Yeah. How long does it take to come up with a concept and then able to produce a content for it and then to publish it? Is it usually strict timeline that you're following, or is it more like, let's scramble at the last minute, which nobody knows what's going on behind the scenes?
This last issue that we've done is probably the smoothest in terms of like how we everything just like ran together very well. Because we are working with multiple contributors, we're relying on them being able to deliver on their deadlines, and so it's a little hectic there towards the end. But it takes us about 3 months to put an issue together. Probably 2 months of really working earnestly on it.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
And like mixed into everything else we're doing, right?
Right.
So it's not the only thing
It's
we've got
not,
going on for a couple of months. It's part of what we're focusing on.
Oh yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's back burner depending on what's happening that day, and then like, oh my god, it's a week away.
A lot of that.
This is the front center. Everything else is back burner.
A lot of that.
Oh yeah,
and also like planning a launch party at the same time. It's been a joy.
Oh wow. So do you do launch party every time?
We do.
Yeah. I think I went to one that was in White Rabbit a couple of years ago. That was such a long time ago.
I feel like I went to one too, a very long time ago.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what was happening, because I just barely got to the United States, and someone invited me. I was like, oh,
okay.
I'll go.
That's awesome.
You were just there, like, okay, I'm here.
I'm here.
Just take me home afterwards. I'll be fine.
Yeah. So this time around, we have a person on staff who helps with events now.
Nice.
Yes.
Cece, she's amazing. So with this particular issue, so our launch party will be April 29th, which is soon.
Okay.
And then so the finishing up the print issue and then going straight into trying to pull together a party has also in the past been a little like so to now have somebody on staff who's not, she's helped with aspects of the magazine, but for that not to be her primary focus, she's able to start moving things with this launch party. So then we're not trying to toggle between the two and try to care about them equally when you're like, well, this thing is due now, but if we don't get out those VIP invites, far enough in advance, they won't be able to mark their calendars, et cetera. So it's been really nice to have somebody else.
100%.
So how big is your team when you started to compare to now? Because as a small business, you will end up wearing all the hats until you're in a place where you're like, all right, you take one of the hats while I'm still wearing 10 of them. Always having somebody who can plan an event, that's always the best. It's like, yes, one hat is given off.
So I guess I have been the one sole consistent person from the get-go. And when we started, there was a crew of volunteers that stuck around for probably a good 3-4 years, and they were basically all my friends. And then it gets to a point where it's like, okay, this is not gonna pay anytime soon.
Because it was volunteer for everybody. It was volunteer for you
yes,
too.
Everybody was volunteering, and it was volunteer till probably about 4 years ago, maybe. And so since it's not volunteer anymore, I've been able to hire people.
Makes sense.
And then the internship and the fellowship program grew, and what happened was that initially interns were kind of helping with all the things, and then one intern was like, can I keep working with you? I don't need any money. And I was like, okay. Great. And then it just sort of organically became a program because I refined it. The people that came through it initially expressed how valuable the whole experience was to them. And then it got me thinking about okay, well, how do we formalize it? How do we figure out how to pay them? So at this point, we are with interns and fellows 12 of 13. The interns come and go, and so the core group is 8.
Technically, the fellows come and go.
They do too,
but
but not as
cycle,
not as quickly as the interns. So 8 with the fellows, and then 12 to 16 with the interns.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. This
So
kind of
it's
sounds
a
like...
3-ring circus is what it is.
Oh, yeah. It kind of sounds like how we started. We were just all volunteers. Dedicating a Sunday. And so be like, oh, this could be something. How do we go about it? And then just slowly one person at a time until okay, now it's a whole company. Okay. Yeah.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah. You as well.
Thank you.
It takes a lot of work. And then people don't realize
No,
with small business, several years, it just unpaid volunteer.
She just sighed.
I remember we were at some point, I don't know, a few years ago, we were a really well-oiled machine, and then we had 2 people leave, and that was just it just threw everything in the air.
And then pandemic happened.
But it happened around pandemic as well.
Yeah.
So I remember how just crazy that was, and I was just I have this job, and then I have that, and this is great. I feel like I have a balanced life right now. And then it was a month.
Oh no! You jinxed it.
I know. I know.
Most of people with us have stayed, but there's always those amazing assistants that you get, and then they handle everything, and I love them. And then okay, I guess this certain point we can get to them, and then obviously if you can't provide the opportunity, we wish you best of luck, and we'll be there for you. And it's but we don't want you to go. Stay with us.
I think at the same time, I love working in the creative industry because of how many new things you just kind of have to learn on the go.
Yeah.
And I feel like that just like keeps everything more interesting versus if you had like a regular, like I don't know, like a corporate job.
Oh, yeah.
And you're just like, these are the things that I do on Monday.
Yeah.
And then these are the things I do for the rest of the week. Like it's
here's
just
your lane.
the routine of it and everything. Like, yes, it's safe. Like it has certain advantages, you know, it's great, but I personally like the fact that, you know, there's a fire every week that I just have to deal with.
Sure.
And I feel
with all the fires.
I feel like I learn from like every fire. We always learn something new, and it's always something useful.
Oh yeah.
And so like then every new fire is just better.
Less of a fire.
It's just less. You can extinguish it faster.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I'm sure you guys like about
Oh,
it.
100%. Well, I usually share this at some point in the conversation, is that, you know, what I really enjoy is solving problems.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same.
So does she.
And I like solving them in this industry, in this
Yeah.
environment, with these types of people around me.
Makes sense.
And that makes it a joy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like a job. You know, it feels fun, it feels challenging, and you're never bored.
Yeah.
And if your team is great and you're around people that you really enjoy solving these problems with, what else can you ask for?
Absolutely.
What else do you really need? This
Yeah.
is it. Like, this is it.
I think team makes it the best. Like if you have a good team around, it doesn't matter what
100%.
kind of fire it is. Like
Totally.
we will extinguish it together.
Yes.
Instead of me trying to do it while everybody's standing around.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
It's definitely important to have a good team around you as well.
but yeah. But,
I have one last hypothetical question.
go for it.
If you had unlimited resources, where would you take just everything that you're working on? What would you do? What would you prioritize? And what would you try to accomplish?
Oh, man. I hate this question.
Sorry.
I mean, I think it's a cop-out to say we would just do more and better
Yeah.
and pay people more than what we're paying them now, just because we're not paying them nearly enough. But the vision is to change the face of Indianapolis, to make it a destination for companies like Apple or Etsy or, you know, any number of creative agencies and brands, right? To put us on the map.
Yeah.
As a place where it's good for business, it is, the cost of living is great, the people are nice, the talent is, you know, high quality, right? Like, you can't underestimate it. And life is easier, right? Like, the amount of hours that you save here, living here, versus, say, living in New York, just doing basic things like getting your driving, groceries, laundry, right? Like, even doing your laundry is like, you can't time. It's the most precious resource that we have.
For sure.
So I think it's just being more strategic and doing more, having like a huge creative economy conference that will bring people here from all over the world.
Oh, absolutely.
Employing more creative people and giving them a living wage. Because that's like, as a city, that is our biggest struggle. Well, the reason why we lose so much of our creative talent to other markets is because they can't find jobs here that allow them to have good lives.
That is true.
Sure.
So if we can grow and offer, you know, more issues of the magazine, if we can grow our, you know, digital offerings, have our own YouTube channel, have our own podcast, you know, the sky's the limit when you're in the creative space.
Absolutely.
And then hire people and pay them to like travel all over the country and tell stories and kind of export Indiana that way.
Yeah.
And then import creativity back because they're like finding new things out in the world. That would be a dream come true.
That sounds really good.
Yeah. Especially keeping our creatives here in Midwest. Like, just use all the stuff that they will be creating for something else for here that will just transform the city.
For sure.
Yeah.
Because you can't, like, I think that the Midwest is known for people being nice. But there's a thing about that that's like super special. Sometimes we take it for granted because we live and work here.
Absolutely.
But then you go out to LA
Oh yeah.
And that's not that the people aren't nice, but it's not authentic. They're only nice until they figure out that you can't offer them anything.
Absolutely.
Right? You're not some secret celebrity that they haven't discovered yet.
Yeah.
And then they just walk away.
Yeah.
They lose all interest in you. Here, I think we're like genuinely interested in people, even if they can't give us anything or advance our interests.
Yeah. No,
Which is kinda
absolutely.
nice.
And just
Yeah.
living like this expensive living here. Yeah, like you
Oh,
said, is just so much better than like even pandemic. I think we realized everybody living in East and West Coast who's staying at home, paying all that rent is insane. It's like, okay, at least I don't have to worry about that.
Right.
Beside everything else,
Right.
like that's the one less thing to worry about. Yeah, but no,
You
that
save
makes
that
sense.
money and you travel wherever you want.
Exactly.
Right? We have a great airport.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's getting better. Again, so many things are happening to it. Yeah, we have a flight to Paris, so that's good. So starting.
yep, need more of those nonstop international, but
Yes,
it's coming.
absolutely. And yeah, there's Indianapolis is just waiting to be expanded. And there's so much potential here.
Absolutely.
And people just need to, instead of saying there's nothing to do, and just like open up your mind. There's a lot to do. It's just a matter of if you
Tons.
want to do it.
Right, and
Like,
if you like spend your dollars doing things, there will be more of it.
Exactly.
There isn't
Yes.
more because you're not spending your money on it, so then there's not a market for it.
absolutely.
That's my biggest frustration is when I talk to people and they're like, "Oh, well, we go to New York more often than we go downtown," and you're like,
Why?
I've never heard that before.
"Oh yeah,
So much
oh, yeah,
downtown.
yeah, yeah." We don't. Some people on the north side they think downtown is like just rife with gangs
Murder.
and violence. I don't know. It's weird.
That's so funny. I believe that for like Zionsville.
I know.
we
Yeah.
have
I see how that is true.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's just a ghetto down there in the circle. I don't know.
Yeah.
You go out there, you're gonna get shot.
It's like it's so far away. It's like it's not. It's street down. Like you just
Right.
keep taking one street
It's
down.
the quickest.
Yeah, so much is happening. I love the garage. Like it's just I know like after a while it gets boring, but like there's new things happening. Like so much construction is happening.
Did
It's
you
just-
guys see that announcement for the Pacers, the field house, and
Yes.
everything that they're putting up by that?
Oh yeah.
It's
yeah.
insane. It's
Also, Stutz Building is like getting a whole renovation.
yes. Stutz Building. I love Stutz Building, and we're gonna have an all-star game next year.
Yep,
like
we
that's
sure
gonna
are.
bring up so
Are
many.
you guys gonna
things.
do anything for that?
We should. I think
Yeah.
there's only one person who's big into sports in our team,
Yeah.
but I think regardless, we should do something because we'll just have so many people here.
We're
in town.
much more involved in like the conventions.
like popcorn.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
jam.
Oh, yeah,
Sure,
yeah, yeah.
We're big
Yeah.
on those.
Okay.
Yeah, we just had a meeting with popcorn people about how they're just kind of like trying to grow as well and just bring people to Indy and working with Visit Indy.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Very
they're
cool.
expanding to Louisville, so they're having 2 popcons this year, one in
they
Louisville and
are.
one here.
Okay.
So we may go to both. I guess it's
We'll
what I'm
see.
hearing from last few days.
We'll see.
We haven't sat down and properly talked
So you
about
guys
it.
just like set up a booth in the middle of like and just like live stream?
It's a new initiative.
This is what-
last,
know
last
yet.
year,
So, yeah.
last year we had a booth and we did like a few videos where we just like did like a little vlog and interviewed some of the cosplayers. So that was really nice, and we want to do more of that. But
we,
like more.
I mean, we expanded it. We like told PopCon the other React
Yes.
creators, so other reactors came here, like
Yes.
from LA, or like Chicago, Florida. So it's a big kind of a React Con, and we try to expand on. It was like, here, come find your reactors here.
Yeah. So we've been also like recommending PopCon to like which people they should invite.
Oh yeah.
Just because we know different
Creators.
creators that we think would be a good fit, and I love that we have a relationship
Yes.
with them now where they like
Yeah.
listen to us.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, especially being here, it was like, okay, let's work on this.
Yeah.
like we can
100%.
Yeah, and they want to know they want to invite other creators too. So it's a win-win opportunity for all of us. But I think we are more so included in that, more involved in that. We want to be more involved in Gen Con. I'm pretty sure we can find a way to do something with All-Star Game when it comes around to it. Either way, I think it's going to be a content, right?
Yeah.
Somehow we can use that content. But PopCon, we love PopCon. They're great. It's getting bigger. Especially when it came back from pandemic, it was huge.
Yeah,
Much
but
bigger than we all
people were
expected.
like, ready for action.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think that like that year the city opened up like 3 days before the problem. So that was wild.
Yeah, it was wild. People came from far away because they just haven't been outside.
Yeah.
So they were just waiting for it. And it's just interesting community that usually a lot of people who don't find friends in their own community, and that's PopCon is where you can find your own community. So it's big, and we love meeting everybody.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's all about connecting, right?
Exactly.
Like all of this.
Exactly.
It's just
for
about
sure.
finding your tribe and feeling like you belong.
And somebody listens to you and understands you. It's like,
Exactly.
yeah. We're like nerds of same kind. Yeah. Let's talk. No, absolutely. All right.
And with
So I would like you to give the opportunity to like let our viewers know where they can find you. I know there's a newsletter, and there's obviously the print is mostly in Indiana, but how they can find you online.
Yeah.
What are you up to?
Well, so our website is patternindie.com and at Pattern Magazine on Instagram. And the magazine is actually distributed nationally.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And for a while, it was actually international.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like it was randomly in like Europe and Brazil and
nice.
Oh, wow.
like other places. That's a whole other story. But yeah, that's where we're at.
I love it.
So people could subscribe
Oh, well,
and receive the print at their home. So from our website, patternindie.com, you can go there. You can find your way to the subscription to the actual magazine. It's $30 for both issues each year. If you buy it like on a stand, an issue is $20. So it's a deal to subscribe.
Oh yeah.
But then we also like locally in Indy, we sell it at Dear Mom on 10th Street.
Okay.
And then at Indie Reads, those are two of our local distributors. But then like Barnes and Nobles and BAM are some other of the like more national.
Perfect. I love it.
yeah,
I love
thanks
it.
for having us.
Well, no,
This was
absolutely.
fun.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
coming. It's just more of a conversational. We love this was a great discussion. We came up with a few ideas. I love it. All right, are we gonna be rating anybody? Yeah, who are we rating?
All right.
Melissa Lamb. All right.
We're about to raid another channel, so please stick around. Tell them the Normies send their regards, and we will see you at the next stream, which is going to be
Next week.
Next week.
It's Friday today.
I
We'll-
was on a Wednesday timeline.
I know.
Sorry.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend. See you later. Bye.
Get ready,
So,
cause it's about
I know you look
time
like the same.
for you to speak your mind. Secret Girls Club. Secret Girls Club. Super Secret Girls Club.